There is a particular moment in Hollywood history, roughly the late 1970s into the 1980s, that feels almost impossible to recreate now. Not because films themselves were larger than life, but because the culture surrounding them was. It was a time of creative freedom, financial risk-taking, and almost no boundaries behind the scenes. And if you listen to the people who were actually there, a pattern emerges. Cocaine. Cocaine was everywhere. So, because of that, I've made a list of 4 films that had notable examples where the cast and crew made the heaviest use of cocaine, either on set or during the shooting. So here it goes. At number 4, it is the movie Easy Rider, made in 1969. This is when Hollywood started living the drug culture. Easy Rider was directed by Dennis Hopper and co-written by Hopper, Peter Fonda and Terry Southern. It is a landmark counterculture road film that follows 2 then-free bikers traveling across America after a successful cocaine deal, searching for freedom in a rapidly changing society. The film stars Peter Fonda, Dennis Hopper and Jack Nicholson. The film was produced on a modest budget of $360,000 and it went on to earn approximately $60 million worldwide, becoming a massive commercial success. But what set Easy Rider apart was not just its subject matter, it was also the way the subject matter extended into the production itself. Drug use during the filming was not incidental but constant. Peter Fonda later recalled that everyone had their drug of choice on Easy Rider, with director Dennis Hopper drinking, Jack Nicholson smoking marijuana, and several members of the crew experimenting more broadly. At times, this blurred completely into the performance themselves. Nicholson described filming the now iconic campfire scene while genuinely intoxicated. He said, "We were all stoned the night we shot the campfire scene. Each time I did a take or an angle, it involved smoking almost an entire joint." The atmosphere was not hidden. The cinematographer admitted plainly that there was a lot of drug use around the set. There's no secret about that, reinforcing the idea that substance use was simply part of the working environment rather than something occurring at its edges. Real marijuana was used on camera in several scenes, contributing to the film's raw, documentary-like tone, even as other elements such as the LSD sequence and depiction of cocaine were staged or simulated. Perhaps the most striking reflection on the film's wider cultural impact came from Hopper himself. He said after Easy Rider, suddenly cocaine was going around. It wasn't even being hidden. The cocaine problem in the United States is really because of me. After Easy Rider, it was everywhere. Therefore, Easy Rider stands as an early turning point. It was not a film merely about the counterculture, it was one of the first to be made entirely within it. So by the time 1980s arrived, the boundary hadn't been restored, it had simply evolved. At number 3 is Scarface. Now this movie had cocaine behind and in front of the camera. So Scarface is directed by Brian De Palma and written by Oliver Stone. It is a crime drama that follows the rise and fall of Tony Montana, played by Al Pacino, who's a Cuban immigrant who arrives in the United States with nothing and builds a powerful drug empire. Set primarily in Los Angeles with key moments in Miami, the film traces Tony's ruthless ambition, his accumulation of wealth and influence, and the escalation of paranoia and violence that accompany his success. Co-starring Michelle Pfeiffer, the film presents a raw and uncompromising look at power, excess, and its consequences. Released after filming between November 1982 and May 1983, Scarface earned around $66 million at the box office and since has become one of the most iconic crime films of all time. There is documented evidence about Oliver Stone's cocaine addiction during the writing of this film. Stone even admitted openly, he said, "I was on cocaine, I was doing cocaine, and I was really an addict without knowing it. I did all the research for Scarface on cocaine, in and out of the country." To finish the script, Stone moved to Paris specifically to escape his access to cocaine. He explained, "Getting out of the country to a country where there was not much of it, there in France in the winter, it was perfect." So during the shooting of Scarface, Al Pacino and other actors had prop cocaine. The cocaine used in the film was supposedly powdered milk, but Pacino was still physically snorting it and taking it in. Pacino himself noted that the long-term effect. He declared, "For years after, I've had things up in there. I don't know what happened to my nose, but it's changed." So Scarface was in at number 3. At number 2 is the movie Caddyshack, and that movie essentially is a permanent cocaine party. So Caddyshack is directed by Harold Ramis in his feature debut, produced by Doug Kenny. It is a comedy set in an exclusive golf club where the lives of staff and wealthy members collide in an increasingly absurd ways. It stars Bill Murray, Chevy Chase, Rodney Dangerfield, and Ted Knight. The film weaves together loosely connected storylines. Shot over approximately 11 weeks in Florida, the film combines improvised humor with unconventional structure. It ultimately earned around $60 million at the box office on a modest $4 million budget, becoming a defining comedy of its era. Cast member Michael O'Keefe described his 11 weeks on set as a permanent party. He recalled, "Cocaine was everywhere. It was driving everyone. People would come into your dressing room with salt shakers and it would be lunch and someone would say, 'Do you want to do a line?' Yeah, sure, it was no big deal." According to accounts from cast members in Chris Nasawati's book Caddyshack, The Making of a Hollywood Cinderella Story, cocaine was snorted openly, out in the open on set. Producer Doug Keeney himself was a heavy cocaine user. He actively led the drug culture on set. He would run through motel hallways yelling, "The eagle has landed, the eagle has landed, get your per diems in cash, the dealer's here." Chevy Chase described that cocaine would just materialize on set, to the annoyance of Ted Knight, the only cast member who got to bed early and didn't participate in the drug culture. One cast member, Mitchell, recalled, "I would never recommend drugs to anyone, but this was a really good cocaine, pure, like they'd just been beaten out of a leaf in Colombia and somebody had carried that leaf to us." Rodney Dangerfield's audition was itself legendary for cocaine use. He reportedly arrived in a leisure suit, pulled out of a plastic bag, did 2 lines of coke at the table, and proceeded from there. He was paid $35,000 for his role at the time, or roughly over $130,000 today. And at number 1, it is the movie Popeye, the most cocaine-fueled set in Hollywood history. Popeye, made in 1980, directed by Robert Altman and written by Julius Pfeiffer, is a musical comedy based on the classic comic strip, starring Robin Williams in his first major film role alongside Shelley Duvall. The film follows the rough but kind-hearted sailor Popeye as he arrives in the quirky seaside town of Sweet Haven in search of his missing father. There, he becomes entangled in the lives of his eccentric residents, forms a bond with Olive Oyl, and confronts the imposing Bluto, whose control over the town creates conflict. Shot entirely on location in Malta and released in December 1980, the film combined highly stylized set design with a deliberately offbeat tone. Although often remembered as a divisive upon release, Popeye was not a box office failure. It earned approximately $60 million worldwide against a $20 million budget, making it a modest commercial success at the time. Now, the story about the cocaine use on set of Popeye exploded in the news in May 2025. During a Q&A in New York City's 92nd Street, Barry Diller, the former CEO of Paramount Pictures from 1974 to 1984, was asked by moderator Anderson Cooper to name the most coked up film set he had ever visited, and his answer was immediately Popeye. Diller elaborated, "You couldn't escape it. They were actually shipping in film cans at the time. Film cans would be sent back to LA for daily processing film. This was shot in Malta, and we found out that the film cans were actually being used to ship cocaine back and forth to this set. Everyone was stoned. There was a specific smuggling method to bring cocaine to the Malta set. According to Diller, the Malta production was so drug soaked that actual film cans were being used to smuggle cocaine back and forth, essentially using the studio's own logistics infrastructure as a drug trafficking channel. Of course, this contributed to the film's energy. Diller described the film's frantic, chaotic tone as a direct byproduct. If you watch Popeye, you're watching a movie that, if you think of it in the thing they used to do about record speeds, 33 RPM, whatever, this is a movie that runs at 78 RPM and 33 speed, meaning that the cast was so wide on cocaine, the film plays like it's running at twice the speed it should. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed the content, please subscribe and follow for more.